speaker, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for this morning, Mr. Peter Gibbs. Peter is a Gamaleray man from far west New South Wales who is committed to improving life outcomes for Aboriginal people. He's the founder of iProud program, which stands for Indigenous Police Recruiting Our Way Delivery, an intensive program helping Indigenous people to join the police force. Peter is also the CEO of READY, an Aboriginal-owned and operated employment, training and community and services organisation which is based in Dubbo in the Central West. Peter became a Christian 23 years ago, and his journey to faith is a really inspiring one, which he himself describes as a divinely led road to Damascus experience. Following Peter's address, Carl Fays, a member of the Sydney Prayer Breakfast Committee, will offer a vote of thanks for Peter and pray for him. So would you please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Mr. Peter Gibbs.
Bless you, bless you. What an amazing experience. When you come from a little community, it's just a small dot on the map here in New South Wales. There's probably 10 of our little communities all put together in the one room. Amazing. I've probably played footy in front of a few people, but never ever got the opportunity to speak, and particularly to share a testimony that hopefully will be uplifting and encouraging to you this morning. But the first thing we must do when we gather is acknowledge the traditional people, and that's the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I give my respects, my sincere respects to the local traditional people, because this always will be Aboriginal land. And whether you're flying in over this beautiful harbour or driving up the highway, this is Aboriginal land. It's the most beautiful country, And we often wonder why Aboriginal people defend their land. For all of us who have flown in over this harbour, you know why local people will defend their country. Or you stand on the dusty plains in the outback where I come from, people, it's their country. It's our land. And it's something that inspires us even now as Christian leaders, that we get the opportunity to take a gospel message alongside land rights and the access to land and opportunity that our country affords. So bless you, sponsors, the organisers, and you to come this morning and give up your time. And hopefully that it will be of benefit and encouraging to you. There's a few things I want to talk to you about this morning. It's about the power of prayer, the power of forgiveness, and the power of testimony. And all of us, every one of us, have got a story. And I'm not here to trump anybody's story. I'm just here to share a message, a personal message, but a message that I can't keep secret because it's about the Lord Jesus Christ. It's not something that you hold on to and not share, because everybody needs to hear the message. As I did when I was a young boy, growing up in Wilmaringal, a little community in the northwest, a wool-growing community, and way before land rights, way before Mabo, there was an agreement between the local wool growers and the local traditional people that we could settle there and remain settled there on the Colgoa River. So our people become the fencers, the shearers, the agricultural workers of Western New South Wales. And that tradition runs through my blood today, because we are the workers. Our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers, they built the outback, basically on the sheep's back. And what they instilled in me, that I want to instill in others, is that if you don't work, you don't eat. Where did that message come from? Although our people didn't read the Bible, something was instilled in our mob. And to now, in my generation, we've got the Bible to open freely and share with our family members. But as you'll see over the next few moments as I share, we still have a lot to go, and we need your prayer. We need to stand alongside each other, and we need each other more now than ever. From our prayers earlier this morning, we think about the international crisis. We think about our country's crisis. Well, I want to share with you some crisis in my community as well, that we still need you. We still need our governments, our business leaders, our community and church leaders every day not to forget my people. Because the cry of my people, like Uncle Rob shared at his prayer, the cry of my people. Please don't try and quieten that voice. In fact, we want to lead revival amongst our people. So as community leaders and church leaders, we need to inspire Aboriginal people to take the lead. We need to change some things seriously in our country to give us some hope. We want our kids to have hope. Just like you have for your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, we have the same inspiration and aspirations for our kids. Thank you so much for your attentive ears. Over the next few minutes, I hope that I don't have you walking out with a burden on your shoulder other than a burden to pray. Just a burden to pray for my people. This is Reconciliation Week. It gives us a time in our country to reflect on how far we've come and the plight of my people, just like Ferguson and Cooper did in the 30s. They are the most inspirational people. I wish I would have lived in those times and heard them speak. I live in Dubbo. Has anybody been to Dubbo? Have you seen the bronze statue in our main street that depicts a story about a wonderful Australian who stood on the corners and shouted to anybody listening the plight of the Aboriginal people? We're still doing it today. I don't want a bronze statue. I just want people to listen. And you could help me do that. We can all help share the message and the plight of Aboriginal people in our own country. But I'm so grateful that I live in Australia. I've never travelled too much. I did go to Papua New Guinea. What an experience. I literally kissed the ground at Dubbo Airport when I arrived home. I truly got to understand, and my eyes were opened to the plights of other people, other countries. And I understand that even though my brother who lives over there, he's not my blood brother, but when God brings you together, you're brothers. And I cry often for the plight of the PNG people. I've seen poverty in my life and in my community when I went to little PNG, and I know there's no hierarchy on need and no hierarchy on poverty. And although that was a number of years ago, my commitment to that little community is as real as it was when I went there. Friends, I think we've all had an opportunity in our life to come to a T-section about whether we go down this track or whether we go down that track. My T-section came in 1997 when my sister Fiona died in police custody in our little hometown Brewarrina in northwestern New South Wales. Now, Brewarrina is a town of a couple of thousand people, predominantly Aboriginal, predominantly families of mine. So when I was struck with the news that my sister had died in police custody in Brewarrina in the middle of the day, the shock that I felt that day still resonates with me today. And when I'm up here today sharing with you the testimony that started with Fiona's death has given me the opportunity on the back of her tragedy to come and share with you the changes in my life that I needed to make to assist Aboriginal people, prevent Aboriginal deaths in custody, but also, more importantly, that I would follow Christ. Have you read the story about deaths in custody? Have you seen it on the news? Is it just been a glaring glimpse, maybe just a glimpse in a newspaper about the plight of Aboriginal people dying in custody in our country? Well, if you know anything about Aboriginal deaths in custody, and if you put some research into it, Brewarrina is a place where 2 Aboriginal people have died in custody, both in the local police station. One in 1987, and my sister in 1997, just 10 years later. When something like that happens, there is a natural response. A natural response. As the eldest of 4 children, coming from a respectful family who built an history of work ethic in the outback, what my grandmother used to say to me, that son, you are going to be a leader in your community. I had no idea what Nan was talking about until my sister died in police custody. Jolted to the front to make important decisions on behalf of a community. Should we respond like others have done in other countries, all parts of the world? Did you see some of the Black Lives Matter responses, particularly when George Floyd died? Have you seen the response when local people take on their police force? I was jolted to the front in leadership. I made a decision with my dad that there would be no violence. There would be no repercussions on our police force. There would be nothing inflicted on that little community that we loved because of the tragedy of losing my sister. From that story, I researched that we needed more Aboriginal people to be in our police force. I found a way to meet the most wonderful people, like former Police Commissioner, Mr. Scipione, who was here today. He was Police Commissioner at the time that the first pilot for the I Proud program was started in New South Wales. What a wonderful legacy, Mr. Scipione. Bless you abundantly. That program has been going for over 15 years. We've trained many Aboriginal people who are now taking their rightful place in their New South Wales police stations, serving our community, helping Aboriginal people and New South Wales police build a better relationship, better understanding. What a better classroom to have an Aboriginal and a non-Aboriginal police officers sitting in a police truck, travelling around the community, and they're getting lessons from each other about how you deal with people. And that maybe locking them up isn't the only answer. Maybe building relationship is, building understanding, particularly cultural understanding. Because incarceration rates of Aboriginal people is going up, not down, and we need a better response. And right at the front end, if we have a police force that's more understanding, maybe we will start to turn around some of those statistics. But through that process, I found out more about myself. I found about the Christian legacy that I grew up with. That my mum, who died at 28, died a Christian. My grandmother, who held me through those tumultuous years, and my auntie and uncle, who are here today with me, were Christians. I knew the legacy that runs through my families for generations. And one night before I was ready to take my own life because I could not bear the burdens anymore, when I said to the Lord, I will be that leader. I will be that leader you call me to be. I will be that leader my nan told me about. So within days, I drove out to my auntie and uncle's church in Burke. I said, I surrender my life to the Lord on this day. And that's the best birthday of all. You understand what I'm saying, friends? There are times in all of our lives that we have to understand forgiveness. I needed to find something in here. I couldn't do that by myself. I didn't understand forgiveness. I had to forgive New South Wales Police. How can you hold that burden on your shoulders and in your heart for the rest of your life? That's why I was choosing suicide. I had a little family who needed me. Brothers and sisters and cousins, they needed me. They needed me to be that leader. Praise God that I said, I surrender my life. And it was in my auntie and uncle's church, and they've been with me every step of the way. Because we need them. We need them. If you are the only Christian in your family, don't stop praying. Please don't stop praying. My auntie and uncle shared with me, they prayed for me consistently for 7 years. Then I travelled out to their little community in Burke, in their little church, and surrendered my life, and I've not looked back. Put up your hand if you think Christian life is an easy life. Put up your hand if you think it's all roses. It's tough. But I'd rather be serving Jesus. And if I could encourage you, if I could really encourage you to really understand if there's things that you need to forgive, you need to come to that point of forgiveness. If you're a grandmother, don't stop praying for your little fellas. I am an example, a living example of a grandmother who just wouldn't give up until she died. I wish she would have lived. I wish she would have lived a few extra years and saw me. But one day, we will meet again. Bless you for listening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come to Sydney, stand in front of you and share. I don't want to be a burden on you. I just want you to be encouraged that we need you to stand alongside us. We need to prevent more Aboriginal kids going in to out-of-home care. We need more of our young people to stay home with us, not in jails. We need our young kids to stay in schools. Thank you for the opportunity for our kids to study in the best schools in our state. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to be here with you during Reconciliation Week, and an opportunity to encourage you. Bless you.